Round 3 of the iRacing Sunday Series Season 7 with Precision Racing League landed at Virginia International Raceway, with last season's champion David Wormald holding on to an impressive points lead in the Driver Championship ahead of Justin Sutton. David started his weekend off in the best possible manner by taking pole position with a 132.108, 3/10 faster than Mikko Mutalainen. Mikko's teammate Justin lines up just behind him, a further 9/10 slower in qualifying, while David's teammate Esteverson Oliveira lines up 4th with a 134.187. Row 3 is All-American, with James Myers qualifying in 5th position, meaning all 3 members of Three Shades of Awesome are starting from the top half of the grid. Behind James comes newcomer Andrew Kissinger, who was less than 2/10 off James in qualifying, the closest qualifiers of the day, and are likely to have some close racing. Row 4 has John Bell in 7th and Nicholas Garforth, who will be looking to score his first points of the season from 8th on the grid. Bringing up the rear on Row 5 is Ashley Blakely and 4th place Indy finisher Alan Pajari, who either were unable to set a clean lap time in qualifying or opted not to qualify. At the start, Mikko got a bit anxious to get going, and the moment he took his foot off the throttle, David launched into action with his teammate Esteverson also getting a fantastic start. Justin's start was much better than Mikko's, but not quite as good as Esteverson's. With the inside line for turn 1, it looked like he might be able to move into second place, but Esteverson braked later, and he slotted in behind David. Replays show just how bad Mikko's start was and how he managed to lose 2 positions before turning a wheel. Both Justin and Esteverson swarmed him on either side, and he had no choice but to concede both positions and drop to 4th place. A bit further back, Andrew missed his braking point for turn 3 and moved to the inside to try and avoid James, but it was too late and he slammed into the side of James and threw him off the track, but with no apparent major damage to either car. Andrew immediately understood his mistake and knew what he must do, so he kept off the throttle and off the racing line to give a position back to James. He had good intentions, but ended up nearly spinning into the barrier and rejoined the race in last position. Back at the front, Justin was pressuring Esteverson for second place, but opted against going side by side into the S's. When Esteverson went wide at turn 10, he was forced to defend the inside line for turn 11, but once again, Justin opted for a better run through the double right-hander before coming onto the back straight. With a much better exit and combined with a slipstream, Justin got a run down toward Roller Coaster and moved into second place without much drama. By the time Esteverson exited Roller Coaster, he had mirrors full of Mikko. As they came through the final corner, Mikko got the slipstream and relegated Esteverson back to his 4th place position into turn 1, almost exactly 1 lap after he'd taken second place. While Justin was making his move on Esteverson for second place, his teammate Ash was making a move on John. With an almost identical move to Justin's, Ash got a run down the back straight and eased into 5th position. Simultaneously, while that was going on, Alan was struggling at the hairpin and going wide, which lost him positions to both Nick and Andrew. The bird's eye view from the blimp cam gave an excellent view of Esteverson's start, Andrew's collision with James, a very close call for Mikko at the hairpin, and also Justin's overtake at the end of the back straight. Mikko knew that his race was with David and that Justin wouldn't put up a fight, but when Justin went wide at turn 10, it was an opportunity too good to pass up for Mikko, who shot around the outside at turn 11 and began the difficult process of trying to catch David. By lap 3, the unforgiving nature of the track began to catch people out, with Nick being the first victim after taking too much curb at the snake. Nick suffered no damage, thankfully, and only lost 1 position to Andrew, who is now up 2 positions after his lap 1 incident for which he received a warning. Nick lost another position to Alan, however, after making the same mistake at turn 12 as Alan had previously. Lap 4 was off to a very strange start, with John running deep at turn 1, which sent him into the grass and consequently a spin. He remained stationary because James was close behind him, but when James went off as well, he immediately began to turn the car around. Just behind them, Nick was also struggling at turn 1, but not because of running deep. Replays showed that James had not gone off the track because of John, but rather just outbraked himself. The lap 4 shenanigans continued further up the field when Ash had a moment at turn 12. Unlike the incidents Alan and Nick had had at that corner, Ash made contact with the barrier and may have received slight damage. Ash rejoined the race without having lost any positions, but his day went from bad to worse when he got oversteer at Roller Coaster that sent him off the track yet again, where he lost positions to both James and Andrew. Lap 5 didn't start off much better for Ash, as another oversteer moment at the entrance for turn 2 nearly sent him into a collision with John. Ash managed to avoid any contact though and rejoined the race, but he was now in last place behind John, Alan, and Nick. Replays showed just how close John came to hitting Ash, but his lightning reflexes kept himself and his car out of harm's way. Unfortunately for Ash, lap 5 only got worse for him, as he took too much curb heading into the S's, which sent him off the track. This was followed quickly by an oversteer moment at turn 10, which sent him into a 360 spin. At this point, it became obvious that Ash would need a repair, and he dove into the pits at the end of lap 5, along with Nick, who either had damage or forgot to put in enough fuel for the race. Ash knew that he had the pace to overtake Nick, and Nick didn't make it difficult for him as he pulled to the side on the back straight to let Ashley through. Pulling so far to the side, he nearly went off the track. The battle between Andrew and James reached a boiling point on lap 7 when Andrew made a lunge at the same corner where he'd knocked James off the track on lap 1. James was clearly slower than Andrew through turn 3, and Andrew struggled to find another passing location. This time he just about managed the maneuver, although the real kudos goes to James for seeing Andrew coming and keeping out of the way. After a relatively clean 6th lap from Ash, it was looking good for him to continue moving through the field, but unfortunately for him, another off-track excursion sent him into the tire wall once more, and again, Ash found himself in last place. Understandably frustrated, Ash returned to the pits once more and retired from the race, having completed just 6 laps. After passing Esteverson and building a small gap, Justin struggled to keep Esteverson any further than arm's length. Justin seemed to have the initial pace, but Esteverson was finding a rhythm in the track that allowed him to start clawing back time from the American. When Justin made a mistake at the exit of turn 12, Esteverson was in perfect position to take advantage and moved himself back into a podium position on lap 8. At the end of the lap, John ran deep through the final corner and went off into the grass. He managed to keep his car pointed the right direction, but lost much of the gap he'd been building to Allen, who was now just a second or two behind him. Lap 10 is when the leader David first encountered lap traffic as he came across Nick struggling through the snake. Not far behind David, Miko had been catching the leader and would also need to navigate his way around Nick. David got lucky and caught Nick before the S's, but Miko had to follow him through the S's and also turns 10, 11, and 12 before turning his focus back towards David. Just one lap later, and Esteverson was also coming up to Nick, and much like Miko, he'd caught him at the S's. It's unclear if Nick was trying to let Esteverson through at turn 10, but he dipped his right wheels in the grass and was sent into a 540-degree spin on the grass before rejoining the race, thankfully without any damage. At the start of lap 12, Andrew had a very similar moment at turn 1 to that of James on lap 4. He had outbraked himself and went deep into the corner onto the grass, but managed to avoid spinning. He lost the position he'd taken off of James just 5 laps prior, but when James made a mistake later that same lap at turn 12, they traded places once again. Not far behind the battling Andrew and James came the battle between John and Allen. When John struggled at the exit of turn 12 as he came onto the back straight, Allen was in a perfect position to capitalize on the mistake. The pair of them drag raced towards Roller Coaster before John conceded the position. John made a possible strategic decision at the end of the lap to make his mandatory pit stop, possibly in an effort to run in clean air and jump Allen in the pits. At the end of lap 15, in what was expected to be a 29 or 30 lap race, the leader David came into the pits for his pit stop for fuel and tires. Miko continued on down the road for another lap as David perfectly executed his pit entrance, his braking for the pit box, and his launch once the pit was complete. David rejoined the track behind his teammate Esteverson and also John. Conveniently for David, both of the cars in front of him struggled through turn 5 and went off the circuit, giving David a clear track ahead of him. David had a clear view of John's oversteer coming out of turn 4, but replays showed that Esteverson had gone deep at the exit of turn 4 and dipped wheels in the grass. Also at the end of lap 15, Justin dove into the pits for his stop while his target Esteverson continued down the road. Justin also hit all his marks for the stop and began pushing hard in an effort to take back third place off the circuit, but unknown to Justin was Esteverson's mistake at the beginning of lap 16, which had already given him the position. Clearly, lap 15 was a popular choice for the drivers, as Andrew also came into the pits. His first pit stop in a PRL race didn't go exactly to plan, however, as he overshot his pit box and was forced to use reverse to get service. On the other hand, league veteran James nailed his pit stop, and the two drivers nearly swapped positions once again, but Andrew managed to come out of the pits just ahead and could now begin to focus on building a gap to James. At the end of lap 16, Mikko came into the pits for his stop, 1 lap later than his rival David. A strong in-lap combined with a quick stop could mean the difference when it came to winning his first race of the season, but David had been just as flawless in the pits as Mikko, and he flew by the fin just as Mikko was returning to full-throttle racing. Mikko appeared to be closer to David and had 1 lap fresher tires, so he began pushing hard to try and close the gap. Unfortunately for Mikko, he was pushing a bit too hard and clunked over the curbing at the start of the S's. This unsettled his car, which gave him oversteer. He lifted off the throttle, which stabilized his car, but it was too late and he ran off the circuit, losing precious time to David in the process. Like Mikko, Esteverson also entered the pits at the end of lap 16 and made his stop without any problems, but because of his mistake at the beginning of the lap, Justin flew by while Esteverson was still stationary in the pits, giving him an 8-second gap to Justin ahead and only 12 or 13 laps remaining in the race. Lapped traffic would also play a role, however, and Esteverson knew that with a little bit of luck and some consistent laps, he could catch Justin and regain his podium position once more. By lap 21, the leader David had now caught his teammate James a lap down at turn 1, but when James got on the power at the same time as he hit a bump in the track, it gave him oversteer, very similar to Nick's oversteer moment on lap 4. Once again, David found a spinning lapped car in front of him and lost no time in the process of lapping James. Unfortunately for Mikko, it wouldn't be so easy, as he caught James at the tight left-hander of turn 4. James appeared to intentionally run wide at the corner so Mikko could take the racing line, but Mikko missed his braking point, nearly ran into the back of James, and when he put a wheel in the grass, he was sent into a spin. As they entered the S's, Mikko could see James ahead, but certainly wasn't being held up yet. Through turn 10, Mikko gained massively on James and either got a bit of David's good luck, or James was possibly seeing a return of his bad luck, as James went wide at turn 12, which allowed Mikko to breeze past him, although without a slipstream, which may have helped him get closer to David. On lap 22, Justin encountered a busy stretch of track with Alan, who was a lap down, and also Nick, who had already been lapped by Alan. Nick got out of the way at the exit of the final corner very nicely, and Justin grabbed a tow from Alan on the way down to turn 1. Justin may have lost a little bit of time through turns 3 and 4, but only a tenth or two, as Alan pulled nicely to the side at turn 5, and Justin continued down the road while keeping a close eye on his gap to Steverson. Steverson wouldn't have a much more difficult time of passing Nick when he caught him on lap 24. Nick had another moment at turn 12 which sent him into the barrier and let Steverson by to focus on lapping Alan. On the very next lap, Steverson had closed right up to the back of Alan before Alan made the exact same courtesy as he'd made for Justin and pulled to the side at turn 5 and let Steverson by. Crucially for Justin, Steverson went wide at turn 10 and was sent off the track, where he lost far more time than he had lost from being behind Alan, and with only 4 or 5 laps estimated to be remaining in the race. On lap 28, Andrew had another moment at turn 1 which sent him into a 180-degree spin. He rejoined the track pretty quickly but was slow to get away. The reason he was slowing down became apparent when Justin appeared behind him, who had already been shown the white flag as he started lap 29. Andrew tried to let Justin by before turn 3, but the gap was too big, so he pulled to the left between turns 3 and 4, and Justin went by having lost no time. Like Justin, David had been shown the white flag at the start of lap 29 and knew that without any mistakes the win was his. The reigning champion had a difficult start to his season after being beaten at Indy by newcomer Martin and at COTA by another newcomer, Hunter Manley, who is returning for week 5 at Watkins Glen. But David drove like a true champion at Virginia International Raceway to claim his first victory of the season after getting 2 second-place finishes. In the end, David finished over 14 seconds ahead of Mikko, who had to settle for second place, while his teammate Justin got his first podium of the season, making it a double podium finish for Yusuck Finn, while David's teammate Steverson, with his bad luck in the second half of the race, was nearly 13 seconds behind Justin in 4th place. Andrew Kissinger opens his points account with a solid 5th place finish in his first race with PRL, and at arguably the toughest track of the season. James had a difficult race, which seems to be a growing trend for him this season, but still managed to finish 6th. Alan did well to finish 7th and is likely looking forward to next week's oval race at Twin Ring Motegi. Nick also scored his first points of the season, albeit 4 laps down from David, but is showing real signs of improvement at such a tough circuit. John Bell completed just enough of the race with a minimum of 70% race distance required to score points, while Ash's retirement on lap 7 meant he scored no points at VIR. In the Drivers' Championship, David extends his lead at the top with 59 points to Justin's 42. No surprise, given they are the only two drivers to score in the top 5 at all 3 races so far this season. Alan Pajari did score at all 3 races, but only broke into the top 5 at Indy, meaning he's tied for 3rd place with Mikko at 31 points apiece. Esteverson's 4th place finish puts him equal on points with James at 24, even though Esteverson failed to score points at Indy. Race winners Martin and Hunter are down in 7th and 8th and appear to be focusing on the oval and road sides of the championship respectively. John Bell hasn't finished in the top 5 yet this season, but has been scoring points enough to stay ahead of Indy podium finisher Fred. Ash is clearly having a difficult start to his season with 14 points and is now followed closely by the new kid on the block, Andrew. And finally, Nick scored his first points this week, moving him ahead of Andreas, who disconnected from 3rd place at COTA, and Hamish, who is likely not returning for the remainder of the season due to scheduling conflicts with another league. The Road Championship looks very similar to the Drivers' Championship, but with Mikko and Justin swapping positions. Esteverson is in 4th with 24 points, while Hunter stays in 5th with the 21 he got from winning at COTA, although once drop weeks are in effect, he will likely gain numerous positions. In the Teams Championship, 3 Shades of Awesome headed into VIR with a 9-point lead over USAC Finn and extended their lead by another 11 points at 107 to 87, although rumors have been spreading of a 4th team likely to be forming soon. In the Safety Championship, Martin and Fred are still at the top since they have not had a single incident so far this season, while Justin's impressive 0-incident race at VIR increases his CPI from 247 to a whopping 411, more than double that of Alan in 4th place. Mikko managed to get just a single incident at VIR, which moves him ahead of Hunter, while David was the only other driver at VIR to have a 0-incident race, and he also moves ahead of Hunter. At the end of the 29-lap race, David cruised around the track while Mikko pulled alongside him to congratulate him on the win. It was a hard-fought battle, but David came out the victor. Mikko showed he had the pace to fight David, but some bad luck and a mistake or two meant the difference between 1st and 2nd place. Mikko would be practicing hard for the next road race at Watkins Glen, while David is busy practicing for the Twin Ring Motegi Oval race for Week 4. With all the drivers across the finish line and the race officially over, there was only one thing left to do.